If you want to pump your body and expand your mind, there's only one place to go. Mind Pump. Mind Pump with your hosts, Sal DiStefano, Adam Schaefer, and Justin Andrews.
In this next episode of Mind Pump, we start off by talking about how much we could bench press and lift, our top lifts. Here's a little...
And it's impressive.
And make your bets now. Who do you think's the strongest? It's probably me.
Yeah.
We talk about our past eating routines. Find out why Adam used to pound Eggos and drink Rockstar drinks, and why I used to weigh 230 pounds of raw Guido beef. Yeah. After that, we answer some pretty cool questions. We talk about what our take is on eating the exact same food all the time for an entire year, your typical classic bodybuilding diet. We also talk about Soylent, both the food drink and the movie Soylent Green. All you old people know what I'm talking about.
Go Google it.
We also talk about intermittent fasting and why it's hard to get enough calories when you're intermittent fasting, and is it a good idea to use fasting to gain weight or lose weight? Lastly, we talk about Mind Pump breaking up. Don't freak out. It's all hypothetical. But what would we do if we left Mind Pump and started our own episode?
All those topics kick in right after about 25 minutes. So the first bit of topics where we're not talking about any questions and we're just getting into the PRs and Eggo waffles is the first 25 minutes. Those that want to get right to the nuts and bolts, you can fast forward to 25 minutes in. And during this hour, we actually talk a lot about nutrition, a lot about fasting. I think that came up a ton. We have a nutrition and fasting bundle on our website. So if you guys are looking for more information related to intermittent fasting, inside the guide, we break down how each one of us fasts. There's 6 different protocols in there, how to follow that. It's a very easy read. We also have a nutrition guide that has a calculator in there to break down exactly how many proteins, carbs, and fats that you should be intaking every single day, and it's full of all kinds of information. In addition to that, we're also revising that. So if you purchase it now, anything that we add to any of those guides, you get absolutely free. You can get all that at mindpumpmedia.com. I wonder how much... I
can bench. Not that much right now.
Or ever. I'm wondering...
I used to bench a lot, dude.
Really?
Yeah, my top bench ever. What did I do? The most I've ever benched was 365.
Oh, that's good.
And that was at a body weight of 225, I believe. That's the most I've ever benched. How about you? I know, Justin, you hit 405 once, right?
I did, yeah.
I've never hit 4 plates.
What's the most you've ever bench pressed, Adam?
Probably 350, actually. I don't think I've done more than 350.
Dang.
Yeah, but I've also done that on incline, too.
You did 350 on incline?
Yes.
That's not that much. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So I don't know a lot of people that, I went on a mission, like the last couple, when I was competing, I was really... working on building my upper chest, and so I totally neglected flat bench because that's all I did for years, and I stayed away from incline because my incline was significantly weak.
Oh yeah, I got to that point for sure.
And so then I flipped it on its head, and I was like, I'm not going to flat bench hardly ever. If anything, I did it with dumbbells, and then I would always incline press. And I caught my incline press up to my flat bench press.
Wow!
So I didn't really I don't, who knows if I could have progressed my flat a little bit further. I really think just recently have I honed in on my bench press technique. You know, for years I was bodybuilder bench pressing.
So elbows out bench.
Yeah, flaring them out, catching at 90 degrees. You know, real controlled 4-second negative. So one thing that I could do, like even though I wasn't the strongest, bench presser, is, I could control a heavy amount of weight. I didn't power. I never 1-1-1. Like I didn't start doing like power type lifts until I got with you guys. I never did 1-1-1 anything. Everything I did was hypertrophy type based training. So I could get under with 275, 315 and control it really, really slow and control, where when I'd work out with other guys that were maybe stronger than me, but they would have to boom, like, power lift it up. Like that's, I didn't have to train.
So when I did 365, it wasn't, I guess it was a long time ago. It's so funny. When the older you get, the more distorted your idea of time goes.
Yeah, I was like, just like last. Oh, wait a second, that was.
And I'm thinking about like, that was like
15 years.
Yeah,
ago.
it was like 10 or 12 years ago. So when I did 365, I actually did a pause. I did a 1.5 second pause at the chest because I actually thought for a second I'd compete in powerlifting.
Oh, really?
Only because my deadlift, I've had exceptional deadlifts, and so I thought, oh, I'm going to compete, and then I realized that I'd lose at everything else. So, but this is exciting. This is a fun conversation. What are your, and you got to be totally honest, no lying here. Everybody pinky swear.
Whoa.
What are your top, like, real lifts, like not like with good form, and that would probably qualify as like a good, like, what's your best ever bench press, deadlift, squat, overhead press, front squat, like, or whatever else you want to say that's impressive. Like, impress me.
I've benched on incline and flat 350.
That's pretty damn good.
I have deadlifted 555. I have squatted 405. And I have overhead pressed. I think I haven't done. Back when I used to bodybuilder overhead press, so I don't really count that anymore with the 90. I was doing over 225.
Wow, seated?
Yeah. But that's
now, was this down to like
90 degrees type shit? Yeah. So like I don't really count that, right? So a full overhead press now, I'm like more like 185 has been like a tough, controlled, full range of motion standing press. So those are probably my big ones. I struggled for a very long time squatting. So that was a big thing for me, was to get over 400 pounds squatting, and with the type of depth that I'm getting now. So like I've made leaps and bounds with that. I came right out the gates deadlifting pretty well. Like it definitely feeds
easy for you.
Yeah,
you got the long arms.
Yeah, I think like the right when I really started getting into deadlifting, I shot up to 400 pounds real quick. Yeah, real quick. I shot up to 400 pounds, and then from there it was like, building up to over 500, then 550. So that one, that lift definitely bodes well for my body type.
What about you, Justin? I know you've benched 405.
I benched 405, and that was in college both, and then I want to say maybe 5 years ago, and I was on this like kick of just like benching and getting that back in the routine. It took me like a year to ramp up to that. But I kind of go in phases with benching. But like squatting wise, I'm trying to remember. I don't think I hit the 5 bill mark. I think I came just under that. Like 475 range, maybe a little bit higher than that. But I never deadlifted, so that's my weakest lift for sure. Like I just literally started doing that, I want to say maybe like 5-6 years ago. So the most I ever did, that was probably like 455, something like that. And
you have a big overhead press.
Overhead press I can do.
You're really strong in the overhead press.
Yeah, that's one of my strongest lifts probably.
What was your best?
275.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Push press?
Push press.
Fuck. Yeah. That's a lot, dude.
Did a 275 push press.
And your kettlebell, your one-arm kettlebell press is pretty. You did the
123.
123.
Yeah, so was that 16 kilograms?
Yeah. That's crazy. So I did, I'm almost positive 365 or 355 bench. Now, here's a shitty thing about bench press. I chased that for a long time because that was like the lift, right? Like, how much can you bench? And because of that, my AC joint on my left shoulder ended up becoming fucked because I didn't understand really training those imbalances or whatever as well as I do now. I had to get AC joint surgery, and I never go above 225 now because I just don't have the stability in my left shoulder no matter what I do. But I did that. I did my overhead push press. The most I've ever done is 225. Deadlifted, I've pulled 600 pounds, but I also weighed 220 something, so I was really heavy. What would be an impressive? Rows. I can, if I really push rows and I eat a lot, I can row like a fucking horse. And I've actually done sets with 315 for good reps with rows. Overhead press was always one of my harder lifts. And if you look at my thoracic curve, I have like a little bit of an excessive thoracic curve, like a little rounding, and it makes it hard. Like the overhead press part makes it hard, so I lose a lot of strength there when I go overhead. But you know where I used to fuck everyone up? This is the crazy thing. If I worked out with someone and I wanted to be an asshole and just cock strong ego or whatever, I would always do a reverse curl because I could reverse curl more. I just used to dominate people. It's really, really weird.
Huh.
I was at one
It's
point.
kind of a weird lift to go heavy with.
It's weird, right?
Huh?
And isn't that weird?
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, I
got a nasty reverse curl.
Yeah.
I did bicep and tricep fucking 4 days a week for 10 years of
that
lifting.
makes
So
sense.
I was a monster at bicep curls. I didn't even drop that because it wasn't something I was, back then I thought it was cool.
well,
but
it's
now
weird. It's kind of an off lift, you
yeah,
know?
dude, I used to like concentration curls controlled for reps for days. I could curl 50-pound dumbbells like crazy. That is one of the most dramatic differences now. So crazy, all these numbers we're talking, those are all numbers I've hit in the last year to 2 years. So I'm at the strongest I've ever been in my life right now at 35 years old, which is something I'm most proud of because in the past I trained so much for hypertrophy that I didn't have any really strong numbers with my big lifts. I never did a lift less than 5 to 8 reps, and it was rare that I went that low. I was typically in the 8 to 15 rep range with supersets and trisets. Like I was Mr. Pump.
Yeah.
And that was how I trained my body. And just recently have I got into heavy lifting. If there was anything I lifted really heavy, it was like biceps. Like I curled like crazy.
See, I've lost a bit of power, and I kind of know that because I used to actually do a lot of
Getting old.
Yeah, like cleans and clean and jerks, and like I was pretty strong in clean and jerk. At one point, I did a clean for like 315. And
Oh shit!
I did a clean and jerk for 275. But yeah, like that's something that it's so technical, and like it's such a skill that like I was doing that consistently for like 5 years. Just repetitious with those specific lifts.
And I used to have this ability to just, if I wanted to, just bulk up, and I would do this. Right, I'd get my body weight up to 220 to 230. All the time, and get real strong while doing it. And a lot of it wasn't muscle. I just got real big, and God forbid, I know there's pictures floating around there on the internet, and if someone finds one, I'm fucked. This can be a meme that will go viral, I promise you. Because during these periods of time, I also would have long hair, so I literally look like, and my hair gets kind of wavy and curly a little bit, so I look like
Just a beefy wrestler.
I look like an 19, like I'm driving an IROC and I come out with my fucking hair.
Like Bret Hart.
Yeah, like
awesome.
I just look ridiculous.
Sounds like a lot of awesomeness to me.
No, and what's crazy is I don't think I could bulk up now if I wanted to like that. I don't think I could handle the amount of food that I ate, to do that. I'm pretty sure that played a role in my gut problems.
It's not the grass is always greener on the other side, right? So bulking is really difficult when you have a body type like mine or yours, and just like it is for somebody.
I forced it.
Yeah, it was for me to.
What would you eat?
I mean, I'm kind of in the same. I know you guys have always said that, and like it's been hard, but like, I mean, there's been a point where I was having to bulk up because they moved me to inside linebacker, and I went from outside linebacker, and it was like, dude, shoveling food constantly, and just. You get to a point where that like you just lose balance, athleticism.
You just become a big.
You're just a
piece of meat.
Juggernaut of meat.
How much? What's the heaviest you guys have ever been? Because I'm gonna surprise you guys.
245.
Wow.
Yeah,
so
it's heavy as fuck.
I've been 240 in the I mean, naked in the morning, nothing in my system. 235.
Yeah, I got up to 240, and I was a fucking. Like I was a horse, and my staff. This is when I managed Santa Teresa, and my staff would joke with me because if I got on a stationary bike or something for like 5 minutes, I was exhausted. So I was just this big like walking glob of whatever.
It'd be amazing to see what I would build if I actually went aggressively like that again, because I was 240 and all upper body. Like my legs were nowhere the size that they are now. Like I carry my weight stays pretty consistent between 210 and 220, and that's definitely because of my lower development is like way more than I used to. If I was off the diet or off of bulking, I would drop down to like 180, 190 real quick because I would just do it away. And my upper body right now is like the smallest it's ever been.
Dude,
there's a difference. Mine stayed on for a long time. And I couldn't get it off, dude. That was so hard to get back down to reasonable weight again. Oh my God, it took me like a year and a half.
I had to push it so hard that all I had to do was stop pushing it, and I dropped 20 pounds. But I can tell you, like like what a day would look like with nutrition. Like this is, and I'm not exaggerating.
I remember.
I would wake
vividly.
up in the morning, and I'm not bullshitting you. I'd wake up in the morning and I'd get a punch bowl, and I'd eat pretty much a half a box of Cheerios with whole milk. I'd have 10 whole eggs with cheese, and I'd have a banana. That was my breakfast. For the rest of the day, I would split up about 3 cups of white rice and 2 pounds of ground beef. That's what I'd eat throughout the day. Then I'd come home for dinner, and it would be another pound of meat and bowl of pasta. And so I was consuming such a tremendous amount of calories. I remember like I'd be in between clients, like I'd be training a client, and we'd finish like 10 minutes early, so I had 10 minutes to eat, and I'd go in the back and I'd have a bowl of white rice with about a pound of ground beef in it, and then I'd take sauce that I'd buy at the store and I'd pour it on there so that it had some kind of viscosity so I could swallow it. Otherwise, I'd be trying to swallow it. And I just,
oh my God.
And I'd go train my clients.
Your whole existence was to just shovel food.
I was eating 5 of these things a day.
I can't imagine, because for you, it had to have been really similar to what I realized was, so I struggled with gaining forever. And I just thought it was just going to be impossible. I'll never be this big, massive guy. And when I remember I got...
You're a dick, Doug.
Doug found the pic. That's so great.
You're a dick. Where'd you find that?
Online.
Oh, wow.
Everything's online.
You know what's funny? That's not a 2.30 picture. Trust me.
You look powerful, bro.
If you saw a 2.30 picture, you guys would make fun of me forever.
So do you remember, like I've been somebody who tracked for a very long time. When I got the body bug and I started like learning like how much my body was burning, and I was training like 10, 12 clients a day, plus I'm training every single day, like super intense. So I was fucking burning like 5,000 plus calories a day.
Just walking the floor, picking up weights, moving them like all day.
So that was so in order for me to build, I needed to be eating at least that, if not. So I would go for 2 weeks like really good, and then all it would take is 1 week of just being not, intuitively eating or eating mindlessly, and I would just drop 10 pounds like right away because my metabolism was so fast and I was moving so much that I couldn't put this on. So the only way I got beyond this was this, and it was, God, I think back how bad this was. This is true story right here. Like, this is how I got to 240 was I'd start almost every day like this. I ate Eggo waffles, so I'd have 4 Eggo waffles, and
Lego my Eggo.
I'd have and I'd put peanut butter all over them, and then drench them in syrup, and drink a glass of whole milk. That would be like on my way to work. So on my way to 24. So then I'd get to 24.
I used to put peanut butter on waffles.
As soon as I ride to 24 fitness. So these meals are only about 15 minutes apart. So I do that. I'd walk right across the street where we had this little donut shop, and I would get 2.
Are you talking about Santa Teresa?
Yeah. I would get 2 of these ham, egg, and cheese bagels.
Oh my God, I remember those.
1 glazed donut and a regular Rockstar. And that's what I would start like my morning with. Then my prepared meals, because then I would always come to work with my chicken and rice, kind of like how you do with your beef and rice. And those would be spread out throughout the day every 2 hours. And then at lunchtime, post-workout, I would go get a foot long or 2 sometimes from Togo's, Quiznos, or whatever. And then after that meal, 2 or 3 hours later, I'm having my chicken and rice meals. And then at the very end of the day, I would drive and I'd stop by McDonald's and I would get a number 1 plus a Big Mac plus 20-piece McNuggets to finish my night off.
Holy shit.
And that would keep me at about a 6,000 to 7,000 calorie intake on a daily basis to keep me in that surplus of like gaining.
Now, what about shakes?
So shakes to me,
and you throw them in there, right?
Yeah, shakes would be in there.
I used to eat
that
meals.
That was my go-to, man.
Bro, I used to eat meals, and my drink with my meal
would be a shake.
Was a fucking shake.
And
that's so gross.
That's how I use shakes. So shakes for me would be at the end of the night more often than not, and it would be to get that extra. But I'd have that my peanut.
I would have it first thing in the morning before I did the 6 a.m. workout, and so I would add my weight gainer 3,000, 5,000, whatever the fuck it was, and then put in my creatine, and then like double up on like raw eggs I'm putting in there. I'm putting in like, it was just like this cocktail of, you're going to have like horrific farts and shits all day.
Dude.
Like I would sit in class and that was the start. you know, and then I would eat breakfast after I was done working out, and then after that in class I'd have, you know.
After I'd eat all, because I didn't even talk about the shakes. After I'd eat all this food, like Adam, and by the way, I'd have a post-workout protein shake always, regardless of what my diet was, right? Then at the end of the day, now I've had all my meals, and I'm literally at the end of the day every night, I was going to bed like, oh my God, I can't. I'm like stuffed, right?
Yeah.
No, it's shake time, dude. It's fucking shake time.
Yeah.
I would
suck it up, Buttercup,
bro. I would buy either Mega Mass 3000 because fuck Mega Mass 2000. I'm going for 3000.
No, you got to get all of it.
Which, by the way, I figured this out later on. Mega Mass 3000 was the same thing as Mega Mass 2000. The difference is it's a bigger serving size. That's it. So, I don't know any better. I'm like, brilliant. Oh, this has got more calories. I'd buy Mega Mass 3000 vanilla because that was my flavor.
Oh, chocolate.
And I'd get
chocolate all day.
I'd get whole milk. I'd put 2 bananas, probably 3 tablespoons of peanut butter. I'd throw in a couple of eggs, and then I'd put in and if you remember that the shakes, they came in what looked like a paint bucket.
Yeah.
literally it was a bucket with the same top that you know you open a paint bucket and you got to kind of get underneath it with your nails and right. And
then the demons come out.
And it was a massive 8-pound bucket of powder. But that 8-pound bucket of powder had a grand total of 10 servings in there because a serving was like 3 scoops, but it wasn't a scoop. The scoop was the size of a shovel. Like, I don't know how to explain it. A normal protein powder scoop, it would take you 4 or 5 to fill up one of these, right? Yeah. And it was 2 or 3 of these scoops. And by the way,
that's all it really is. It's just a giant
fucking
serving size of protein.
No,
powder.
It's not, because the protein was always around 50 grams from the actual powder, because I had a bunch more from
I
the
never
milk.
paid attention to that. I just was like,
but what it was another 100 or 200 grams of carbs in the form of maltodextrin. So that's all it was a protein shake with a shit ton of maltodextrin, because remember back then fat was bad. So there's no fat in it. It was all carbs and protein. So I'd take this scoop and I'd throw it in the blender, and I'm not lying. I got so much in trouble with my mom, and then later on my wife, who'd get pissed off because I broke blenders, because I'd put these scoops in there with the milk and the banana, all that stuff, and I'd turn it on, and then the sound that the blender would make would be, and you know how you see a shake and it spins real fast? No. This was a slow shake with a very, like, if you looked at the top of it, all you saw was a little bit of a spiral going down, because it looked like I was making
This is why
cement.
When
it was like
the Vitamix and Ninja came out, it was like fucking game changer.
Oh, dude.
Over.
Dude, so I would sit there and I'd drink it and then take breaks in between, like, go. I'd put it down and
it's like so thick.
Bro, I'd breathe like,
yeah.
And the challenge was to not throw up.
It's just like oil.
How fucked up is that? That was the challenge.
I actually still struggled, even with all this crap we're talking about, was still with putting weight on. That I actually bought and we have it actually. That's the same fridge right there. That fridge has been with me for a long time. That's
your shake fridge?
It was. And I used to buy Myoplex ready-to-drink shakes and muscle milks, and I used to keep them next to my bed, and then I'd set my alarm.
Oh, fuck you. I did the same thing.
At like 3 o'clock at 3 o'clock in the morning.
I heard of people doing that.
My alarm would go off. I would, with my eyes closed, literally just roll over, open the fridge, pound the shake, put it back down, go back to sleep.
I remember reading what the guy, like, what's his name? Hugh Jackman, that was playing Wolverine. Like, that was his thing. Like, he had to wake himself up and have like shakes and all that.
Stupid.
You
know what the irony of all that is? The irony is sleep is one of the best things you could do to build muscle. So you're interrupting your sleep to drink some bullshit.
Well, the one thing that I can say to it, as far as, because I got big, there's no doubt in it. I got big from it. What I think is best about all of that was, or the takeaway for me was, the regimen, like having a detailed regimen that I would follow. And I took a lot of that and applied it to when I got into competing. Now, when I got into competing, I was far more educated and experienced. And so I didn't do any of that type of stuff to get ready, which is funny, right? So the best aesthetic shape I've ever been in my life had nothing to do with any of that bullshit.
Well, no, because that stuff just makes you big, bloated, and fat, and sloppy looking.
Which is what I feel like a lot of guys look like inside the gym that are trying to build and get bulky, is they're just puffy. You know, they're all puffy because they're trying some anabolics, they're taking tons of shit, and they just put on some mass and size. Most of it's water and shit. So, but what it did teach me was this I need to be structured and, measuring, weighing, doing all that. That is what, because otherwise I always underestimated the amount of activity I was doing, and I always overestimated the amount of nutrients that I was getting, which is still applies to today. And I just recently discussed this, that, we talk openly about, the supplement industry and how much they push protein on everybody because, bodybuilders now are taking 2-3 grams per body weight, which is just ridiculous. Yeah. But for a guy like me, who naturally gravitates to carbohydrates or naturally just doesn't eat, like I can go for hours and not consume a meal. And then it's 5:00 and I'm at a total of 600 calories for the day. And a guy my size needs to eat 4,000 or 5,000 calories to keep building. That's just not happening. Mm-hmm. So I would have to put in this structure in place in order to continue to build and get all the nutrients that I need. So I do understand where some of these young guys that are trying to build mass or build muscle, and young girls, same thing too, and they struggle with putting mass on because they're not eating enough, and they need to put some sort of structure. And the first thing I always tell people, this is where the tracking did wonders for me. Having a tool like a Fitbit or a Bodybug or whatever fucking tool you like, that's as long as it's pretty accurate, and tracking how much you're actually burning, how much you're actually consuming, and then structuring your day around that to make sure you're getting the vital nutrients that your body needs to build,
Excellent.
Bird. The bird is the word.
Queen Claw. The eagle has landed. Chimera Claw.
Today's Quah is being brought to you by Chimera Coffee. It's the only coffee that is infused with all natural nootropics for a cleaner, calmer, and more focused buzz without the crash. Click the Chimera link at mindpumpmedia.com and input the discount code MINDPUMP at checkout for 10% off.
It's the motherfucking Claw.
The eagle has landed.
Quee-qua.
First up is Beach Cruiser 83. Is it bad to eat the exact same healthy bodybuilding meal plan every day over the course of a year?
The irony of the first question here.
Healthy.
Yeah, first of all, it's not healthy. So even if you eat a great diet, even if you map out and you're like, these are the perfect foods, macronutrients, calories, vegetables, whatever, for the day. So now I'm going to eat them the exact same portions and foods every single day for every single meal, which is what old school bodybuilders used to do. And I do that for a year. That should be excellent, right? Wrong. Here's some Now, here's some positives to that. The positives are you're going to eat the right amount of calories and macronutrients. The negatives are eating the same exact foods all the time is going to
malnourished.
You can create some serious food intolerances. If you have any type of inflammation in your gut, you're very likely to produce antibodies to the foods that you consume all the time and become intolerant to them. I've had many clients who I've worked with who we've identified food intolerances for them, and they're like, but I always eat that food. Like I have an intolerance to bananas. Like I always eat bananas. Like, well, that's probably why you have an intolerance. I mean, you got to keep in mind that the human body evolved eating what was around, which meant you followed the seasons and you followed the terrain and the animals around you. We didn't understand farming until, from an evolutionary standpoint, relatively recently. And with farming, the invention of farming, our food choices became very, very, very narrow. And to this day, they still are very narrow. The major crops and foods that we grow today are limited to a few things like soy, corn, wheat. That's pretty much it, right? But it wasn't like that for most of human civilization. So the body kind of thrives on variety. So aside from having the right macros and calories, you want to give yourself variety. Now that's also not to mention all these micronutrients and these phytonutrients and compounds that are found in foods that you don't get in other foods. For example, when you eat foods that let's say you eat vegetables that are purple, there's certain phytonutrients that give it that purple color that you'll only get from purple vegetables that you won't get from orange or yellow or green vegetables. They have other benefits. So variety is incredible. And I've seen lots of people mess themselves up by doing, not to mention the mental. Fuck, why don't we talk about that?
Well, first I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit here, because you got to also take it into what about the person who, and I was an example of this, was eating Taco Bell at a certain time, and then I was eating Eggo waffles and drinking Rock Stars, and days would go by and I would miss vegetables. Like, this was a very normal eating pattern for me. And then all of a sudden I decided I'm going to get on this healthy bodybuilding meal plan where I'm having tilapia, asparagus, or whatever. Who is doing more harm to their body?
If we're doing a versus, think about that. And now, well, that's easy. It's an easy answer. But let me tell you what the problem with that is. The problem with that question. That question is always, or that statement is always what's used to defend something. So I'll give you an example of how that may be used in other aspects of life. So like if smoking cigarettes, let's say I smoke 5 cigarettes a day, and someone's like, hey man, you need to stop smoking 5 cigarettes a day. And I'm like, well, I used to smoke a pack a day, so it's way better now. I'm managing it. Yeah. And that's not the point, right? Definitely eating.
I was doing heroin.
Yeah, definitely eating the regimen and diet probably going to be better for you over the course of a year than eating a shitty diet, over-consuming calories, and all that other stuff. But the question isn't, what's better. The question really is it a great choice?
But I think that's important to make that clear, because when we come out and say that, eating a healthy bodybuilding meal plan is not ideal, is not healthy for you, could have all these issues with your gut, so on and so forth, which you mentioned, then does that detour the kid or someone who was considering doing that, who has no structure right now and is eating Taco Bell, Eggo waffles, and drinking Rock Stars?
Well, that's one point. I think the other point is just like ease of the mental piece to it. Like, so if I can stick within a regimen that's not, full of variety, and I have to think about my next move as much. I know in the competing world, right, you can voice in, Adam, of course, with this, where it gets to the point where, you're basically like, you have this mental fog about you going throughout, the process, the more intense it gets, towards the end and restrictive. So, I feel like some of that has to do with the fact that they just want to have it in a little box. It has to have your macros are this, and this, and it's consistent. And then that's what I'm putting in, and done. I'm done. I don't have to think anymore. Yeah.
I think there's steps. There's steps towards, a healthier lifestyle. And if you're at the step where you're eating just haphazardly, you don't know what's in food. A lot of people are like that, right? They have no idea, really not really aware of what's in food. They're eating kind of crappy, like you're saying, Adam, eating the Taco Bell and Eggo waffles and all that stuff. The next step that I would coach someone on, and this is usually how I coach people, is I start by making them track and being on a more regimented schedule. That's the next step. It's better than what they were doing before, and they get to understand what's in food and control it, and it becomes conscious. They're consciously aware of what's going on. Yeah. But the step after that would be a move away from that, because if you stay in that, let's talk about the mental piece. Could you imagine the problem?
There's no doubt that it's not creating a healthy relationship with food, because then you'll forever, and this is what's is so apparent in the bodybuilding world, is that all these athletes that get into this 2% and have they're in the most amazing shape of their lives forever. They have these, and what they did to get there is not a realistic lifestyle that they can live forever. They had to eat.
And they always associate that process with that specific formula.
Exactly. Yeah. So that creates a very poor connection to food and exercise and training and dieting, with that, if I ever want to get in shape, I got to do this, which leads later on to this yo-yo, no different than the super obese person. You just happen to yo-yo back and forth between 20% and 5%, 20%, 5%, where you binge after you get off of dieting this certain way. You let yourself go so far, then you go like, oh my God, I'm getting fat. Now I need to get back to my Tupperware meals where I eat asparagus and broccoli. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like,
exactly.
So
you lean on it.
No doubt it is. It's not that far different, though, to me, than the IFYM thing is. I'm looking.
It has more flexibility.
Yeah, I'm looking at this question. I'm wondering, what would I rather take on as a client? Would I rather get somebody who came to me and they were the healthy bodybuilding clean eaters, and that's how they eat, then they've been that way for a long time, or the IIFYM person. And who would I rather take on, and who am I going to need to put the most amount of work?
Who's going to have a better transition?
Yes. And that's
a tough one. I think I would almost say IIFYM is a half a step ahead of the eat the same food all the time.
Possibly.
Right? It's like a progression. I'll tell you what.
I don't know either. Because
I don't know about that.
Because I think that
they're making priority for the junk to repeat its way into the cycle.
But at least they understand a little bit of flexibility. I don't know. It's tough because taking someone from knowing nothing about food and teaching them how to track and eat certain foods and having structure, believe it or not, I found to be easier. That's an easier step to take than taking someone who tracks everything and has it all ironed out, whatever, from there to intuitive. That's a fucking hard step. That's what I'm working a lot with right now with some of the online people that I work with is now I've got to take you from this tracking to, and there's a bunch of steps that I've designed in between to get them to that intuitive eating, part. But it's a hard decision. Here's the other thing. Here's what you want to consider too. Like the body, we've said this a million times on Mind Pump, is an adaptation machine. Your ability to adapt, your body's ability to adapt, really is closely tied to your overall health and longevity. And here's the connection to that. If I eat a keto diet all the time, okay, and they do a gut test on me and they test my microbiome, okay, my microbiota, what they're going to find is the majority of the bacteria that they're going to find in my gut is there to break down fats. And I'm going to have very little, bacteria that's there to break down starches and carbohydrates.
So you become less efficient at that.
I become my body has become so efficient and adapted to the keto diet that I've lost a lot of that variability with my microbiome. And this is a fact, by the way. You'll see this in people who eat a particular way all the time. Now, is that good? Well, no. It's no different than anything else that you do with your body, where you prevent you almost take away your body's ability to adapt to things. Because if you take someone who's eaten keto for years and we're super strict on it, give them a high carb meal, healthy carbs, give them a bunch of sweet potatoes, rice, whatever, they're going to have really bad gut issues right away. They've lost their ability to adapt to those foods. In fact, I've had to tell people to slowly introduce certain things so that they can build up other bacteria in their gut and get their body's ability to digest and break things down. So eating the same exact foods is really no different. And this is why I try to do variety all the time, where I do my vegan days and I'll have days where I eat more carbohydrates. And I do tend to trend more towards the higher fat days because on the other levels, the other things in terms of my mind and all that inflammation, I just feel better on those. But you don't want your body to lose its ability to adapt to different foods. So there's a lot of reasons why it's not a good idea to be super strict. I think
we all agree that it's not healthy. In fact, I know that IFYM actually was created as the counterculture to the crazy healthy bodybuilding, eat the same thing over every single day. I don't think that you're going to see a person who was eating shitty, terrible food if all of a sudden decide, hey, I'm going to start eating this way, super strict. In fact, there's probably a lot of health benefits to that person that's going to see better better markers at the beginning initially. But no, if you do that, then you got to know that eventually you want to transition away from that into where you're rotating your foods. I think that we're all in agreement with that, right?
Yeah, and I think it's the mindset of like seeking out foods that are going to benefit my body's health and well-being. Like that's such a it sounds like vague, to a lot of people that need structure and they need something that's like easy and repetitive, but and that changes. Yeah. What foods? It does change. That's the thing.
Right.
You have to cycle it in and out.
You know exactly. What this again? We've had so many questions, and sooner or later I'm going to get motivated. And I've said this before. I'm going to say it again because maybe if I get enough people pushing me to do it, I would love to do this with you guys. I've always wanted to create a diet that flips dieting on its head. It's the opposite of dieting. In fact, it is a diet designed towards going after
anti-diet diet.
No, going after food. If you were to look at all the types of foods that have all these great health,
rather than saying don't eat this, but aim for this.
Aim for this many in the week. Aim for this many in the week.
Like, I've skipped, because I haven't eaten this in the diet. I got to go seek that next.
Yes, and I bet if you
anti-diet.
If you flip the diet protocol on its head, instead of trying to restrict from certain things, and instead of looking at it like that, there's a ton of things that your body gets a ton of nutrients from, and can you go after that, and then giving people guidelines of how much you're trying to get at least that in there. I bet you most people would struggle with getting all those things in their diet on a weekly basis.
That would be a very interesting experiment.
Actually, that's I think it's brilliant, because
it is.
if you make a little rule and they're like, hey, eat whatever you want, we don't care, so long as you hit these things that you're supposed to chase, you're probably going to be pretty satiated.
Look at your macro and micronutrient.
Yeah, you'll probably be satiated and satisfied, and less likely to overeat anyway, right?
Right. I think it'd be cool.
All right. Our next question is from Primal Holistic Fitness.
Again, the opposite, right? Here.
Yeah. What is your take on Soylent and drinking all of your food?
You know what this question reminds me of?
People.
Remember in The Matrix when, what's his name? Agent, fuck is his name?
Oh, yeah.
Not Neo, but
right.
God, I can't remember. I can't believe I forgot his name. Anyway, Smith.
Okay. He's the Smith.
Yeah. He's telling him how the computers or the artificial intelligence created the first Matrix, and it was perfect. Mm-hmm. It gave you everything you wanted.
Utopia.
It was a utopia, but it crashed because the human mind
nobody believed in it,
couldn't accept it. Yeah. And what's fascinating about that statement is that imagine, it's kind of true, right? Imagine if you lived in a prison, a jail. You're not allowed to leave. You can't do anything, but you have all the food, perfect food. You have, the sleep or whatever. Here you go. You're in here. We control everything, but it's everything that you need. How happy would you be?
Right.
You'd be miserable. Yeah. And that's the psychological aspect of Soylent and drinking all your food. I think, and there's a health aspect and a physiological one that we'll get into, but I think from a psychological standpoint, it's never worked. Liquid food has been around forever, and from a psychological standpoint, I can see how some people are drawn to it. Yeah. People who are like, I don't want to worry about food. I just want you to tell me what to eat.
Exactly.
But you can't live that way.
The appeal of it really was for programmers and developers, for them, so they didn't have to leave their desk to go to lunch. This became like a competitive thing, like who could martyr themselves, and like finish these projects, in a more timely manner. And this is just like, the Silicon Valley's gone through a lot of different waves, but this is definitely one of those things that kind of took popularity because it's very competitive. It's competitive to keep your job. And this became kind of a movement where, I could just get all the nutrients I need, right here at my desk and have it like, boom, I just ate everything I needed right then. It's 5 minutes, whatever. I'm back to productivity. Mm-hmm. So
now, isn't Soylent like it's a take on the movie Soylent Green?
It must be, right?
Yeah. And for those of you, it's an old movie.
It's made of people. Yeah. There's caution there.
You just gave away the end of the movie.
Damn it.
It's a sci-fi movie. You should watch it. I don't know why you'd name your company Soylent.
I know.
After that fucking movie.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Charlton Heston rolls his eyes.
But, from a physiological standpoint, there's certain enzymes that your
body... how great their website is.
Literally. It says on the website, eating is easy, engineered nutrition, frees up your time, as if eating was this horrible
such a hassle.
Such this pain in the ass. Food 2.0. It's completely advertised towards how
do you hang out with
Silicon
people
Valley.
when you eliminate food?
Right.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Well, it feeds into the gaming culture too, right, Justin?
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't it big with that? Like, I'm sure, like
drink your Mountain Dew and then your Soylent.
Exactly.
While you game away for 15 hours.
Now, from a physiological standpoint, look, there's certain enzymes that your body, has that breaks down certain foods that it replenishes and it becomes. It can deplete. There's certain micronutrients and phytonutrients and things in food that I guarantee you are not in this. There's things in food we haven't even identified. There's combinations of things in food that we don't know how they interact with the human body. You need to understand just how complex the process of eating food and assimilating food is, And we still know there's still a lot we don't know about it. So there is no, who knows, maybe in the future when, artificial intelligence becomes so hyper intelligent that it can literally design food for us, but we're nowhere near that. So there's a lot of things you're not getting.
Well, just the whole process of chewing and you know what I mean? Like digesting, like the whole, like in a slow enough fashion to where it can process everything and gather the nutrients.
Process. That's part of the digestive. You're skipping a part of that process.
You're skipping it. Yeah. Like you're just accelerating it right to like hoping that you're just going to absorb this, and have you guys seen the movie WALL-E?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, come on. Like what motivation? I don't know. Food is so ingrained in movement too. I mean, it's there's a whole process to that we're just going to like cut this off and just drink. Like I just see like red flags.
And everywhere. I tell you this right now, I'll bet all the money in the world that the vast majority of people who are committed to just having Soylent every day, the vast majority at some point are going to go off of it. And they are going to have set their bodies up horribly for processing real food. And they're also going to set up their minds horribly because they've now done this thing with their brain where they're just drinking their food. They're not chewing. They're not utilizing their body the way that it evolved to be used. And now they're going to
listening to music. You stop, going to movies. You're like, that's just, distraction.
I honest to God think that it's very irresponsible of them to advertise this as you never have to eat food again. I really, really do. I think it's horrible advertising.
Well, I think the person asking is a trainer, I think, right? I believe he's a trainer or her. I'm not sure. But the way they worded the question was like, I think they had a client that was interested in this drink or purchased it or whatever. And here's if you have a client or somebody who wants to take these drinks, I think addressing the drink itself and does it have, because they're going to have all these, studies that support, you can get the same nutrients or this or that bullshit. And you can go around and around circles debating it. The relationship that this person has with food is what needs to be addressed. Like there's some either psychological stuff that they either are dealing with. Like I had a client who actually wanted me to let her drink this, and I remember like it happened to also be my client that had like the worst relationship with food.
This is the same. This is the same thing as like saying, "Fuck, I'm so sick of relationships with people. I'm just going to jerk off all the time and never date anybody ever again.
Isolate myself.
It's the same.
And become the Unabomber.
It's the same thing. If you look at food like it's a fucking hassle, it's horrible. I just want to drink it and get it over with so I can work. Have a problem.
That is exactly the mentality of the client that I'm talking about, which leads me to give that advice is that there's something, it's not about debating with your client or trying to educate them on how much more healthier it is for you to actually chew your food or find whole foods, kind of all the spiel at Sal went on. That's true, okay? But what needs to be really dove into is the relationship that this person probably has with food, that this would even be an option that they would want to do. So I would address that above all things. I mean, sure, it's not going to kill you overnight. Sure, it has some nutrient value to it. Sure, all those things. But why would you even want to go that route? And what type of person would ask that? And the person that you just described, Sal, is literally to a T. That's the mentality of the client that I had. Was just like, just this whole food thing is just so annoying. Trying to figure out,
so weird.
Yeah, it's just so
too much.
It's too much. Yeah. I'm too busy. I got too much going on. I just need something simplified for me.
Just put a catheter in me because I can't be bothered to go take a pee in the toilet.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Stadium Buddy. There's a plug.
In the show notes.
Yeah.
I think they sell it on Amazon, right?
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Quick interruption by our sponsors. You guys, lots of people have been asking us how they can support the Mind Pump Mafia family. Our first one is our Chimera coffee that we love. You guys go to chimeracoffee.com. That's Chimera with a K for 10% off. Don't forget Mind Pump at the checkout. We also have our BigTopBeardCompany.com for 33% off. Also, Mind Pump at the checkout. Also, Brain FM. We talk so much about this for sleep and meditation. It's brain.fm for 20% off. Also, Mind Pump at the checkout. You guys, we also talk a lot about books on here all the time. We're using that Audible. You guys can get a free trial, 30-day trial, plus one free audiobook if you go to audibletrial.com/mindpump. And then last, we get lots of people asking about Ben Greenfield's CBD supplement, so we hit him up to hook you guys up. You go to getnaturedblend.com/mindpump for that discount.
SR Arts asks, how do you get enough calories in when you are intermittent fasting?
So here's a thing with intermittent fasting. It is not a way to diet. It is not a way to get the right amount of macronutrients and calories or whatever. Intermittent fasting itself has health benefits, and just leave it at that. So if you're doing it so often that you're losing more weight than you like, and you're just having tough time get all your calories in,
You're
and
fasting
you're
too much.
Stop intermittent fasting. It should not be used for those things at all. So I have clients that I have fast, but the reason why I have them fast is either because of inflammation, or because I want to reintroduce certain foods and I want to go through a baseline, or because I want to see them, what happens to them on a mental level with the fast. Like, okay, I haven't eaten in 24 hours. Like, what's going on psychologically? How do you feel? What are the foods you crave? Like, what's the first meal that you eat? And then of course we have the physiological health benefits. Fasting promotes cell death from old cells. When you go and refeed, your body then rebuilds and replenishes those cells, and you have this kind of rejuvenated system. I myself, in fact, as we're recording, am going through, I'm probably going to do a 48-hour fast. I'm going to see if I can do a 72-hour fast. Now, I'm not doing this to get leaner, to lose weight, or any of that stuff. I know I'm going to lose weight. I know I'm probably going to lose strength during that period of time. But the reason why I'm doing it is I've been dealing with, for the past couple of weeks, gut issues that are just really frustrating. And I know, first of all, not eating is going to give my gut time to heal, because it doesn't have to digest. So I'm thinking I have some inflammation there that should go away. But number two, I do know that a nice chunk of my immune system is going to become new. Literally, it's going to be recycled. The old ones are going to die, and the new ones are going to be rebuilt. And I should have less of an autoimmune response when I eat. And that's how intermittent fasting should be used. There's also the mental clarity component that people get when they fast. I get it, myself. I notice that I get much more clear during the fast. But when people are like, "Oh man, I'm fasting, but I'm just losing too much weight," what do I do? It's like, okay, well, stop fasting for a little while.
Yeah.
It's,
I never recommend, if I got a client, because if you're worried about getting enough calories in, it sounds like you're somebody who's trying to build or put weight on or put size on. I don't recommend intermittent fasting. If you struggle with getting enough calories and getting enough food in, restricting for a 17-hour or 15-hour window in the middle of the day is not advantageous of that. So it's extremely difficult for, especially a guy my size, to get the amount of calories and food I need to build and gain. So that's why I only do this maybe once a week, and I tend to do this on days where I'm less active. Now, I've had people and professionals say that, I think it's it would be better to do it on a day when you're more active, this and that. Well, I don't want to lose a bunch of weight from it. I want to do it for the health benefits of it, and that's the only purpose why it's even into my routine and why I have it in my clients. I'm not paying attention to the scale. I'm not worried about the grams of protein I'm getting that day. I'm not worried about the grams of fat. More than likely, I'm going to underconsume on all of them. You're fasted. You're fasted for a majority of the day, more than likely.
Which is kind of part of the point of fasting.
It's the idea is that I'm grossly under on all those things, and I'm not worried about it. And I'm not. And what I think people struggle with is getting beyond that, and that fear of, oh my God, I didn't hit my protein intake for today. I didn't hit my caloric intake today. 2 pounds of muscle is going to fall off my body that I worked so hard to build. Like, no, it doesn't work that way. And that's not going to happen to you. So, and just because the scale drops down 3 or 5 pounds, it's not because of that. It's because you haven't consumed any food. You're lower on your calories. You're not retaining. For every 3 grams of carbs that you have in your body will hold 3 ounces of water. So if you're on this super low calorie intake for the day, just think of how little of water your body's holding, that much. And then if you ever set a half a gallon or a gallon of water on a scale and see how much it weighs, it's a lot of weight. Like, I think it's like 12 pounds, 8 to 12 pounds, a gallon of water weighs.
I think there's still a place for it. while like in a surplus or like I'm in a bulking phase.
Oh, I still do it while bulking.
So that's important to bring up though, because there's a way that you can do it where you're oversaturated. You're just you're retaining water, all these types of things where now I want to restrict, for a certain window, and then I can assimilate everything so much more effectively. So there really is a performance element there
100%
as well.
100%. And this is, so you get similar, okay, when they've studied these side by side, intermittent fasting and carb cycling get some similar benefits. And so anybody who's carb cycled before and knows what it's like to go low, low, low 2 or 3 days in a row, and then the refeed, that anabolic feeling you get, or that massive pump, or how you just feel so great after that quote unquote refeed day that you get, is a similar feeling that you'll get if you just implement fasting once a week or once every week and then go back to eating again. You'll get this surge and that, like Justin's saying, this increase of performance of growth hormone gets shot up. You're going to feel like you're all cleaned out, and then you get all those carbohydrates go to good use. So intermittent fasting, carb cycling, they have similar benefits, very the same type of concept. Even if you are bulking, I think you can utilize it. But then while you're doing it, you're not really concerned in that day. And this is also why I'm not a big fan of actually intermittent fasting every day. I know a lot of people, I've seen it on our forum a lot, they do every day, they do this like intermittent fasting. And to me, I think when you've done that for a long period of time, your body's probably gotten pretty efficient at your eating windows and adapting.
I've actually got, so I was going to voice in a little bit of going through that struggle because, realizing that this move over into this new location, like how much less we're moving from not training as many clients or, not being as active, like that has been somewhat of an answer to me to repeat a couple times a week, intermittent fasting. And, and that was a great way to monitor and manage, where my weight was kind of coming up or down. But like you said, now it's at a point where it's too efficient. And I need to interrupt that process, and so you have to evaluate that. And but it does have great health benefits. So it's something I'm going to repeat in the future. But I have to step out.
No, I mean from a health standpoint, you're probably better off doing it here and there, intermittently, right? And having a wider gap of intermittent times, longer fasts. So, and I'm just talking about the science. So, let's say, once or twice a week you intermittent fast where you don't eat until 2 p.m., right? Maybe do that once a week. And by the way, the individual variance in terms of the ability to handle fasting is pretty dramatic. So I know people who they can fast too much and they'll get some really negative effects, women in particular. So it's really on an individual basis. But just speaking, just general, right? Let's say you did intermittent fasting, once or twice a week, and that's just what you did for the most part. And maybe once every 3 months or 4 months, you do a 24 to 72 hour fast. You're going to get different benefits from those long fasts as well. And that I'm talking about from a purely health standpoint in terms of the anti-cancer effects, the immune, health effects, all those different types of things. But here's something else you want to consider. When you fast, and I hate to say this because then people use it to diet, but it does make getting leaner easier. And I'm not talking about the calorie aspect of it. I'm talking about the
appetite control.
Yeah, the way your body, the way your brain actually receives food or perceives food. So I notice when I fast and then I go eat foods that I may think are normally bland will then all of a sudden explode with flavor because I've upregulated certain receptors. I get a dopamine response again. So now I'm going and eating things that normally feel a little boring to me, and they're so delicious. And this may be useful for some people who find eating quote unquote, healthy whole foods boring. A good fast typically will hype those things up, get those, those receptors upregulated, and get those taste receptors or taste sensors to kind of become more sensitive. And now you eat, broccoli or something else, you're like, wow, this is really good.
Next up is Rumo Third. If Mind Pump were to break up and you all went your separate ways to create individual podcasts,
how dare you?
What would be the focus and the name of your individual podcast?
That's hilarious.
This is great because we were literally, the reason why I picked this question was we're
going to break up.
No. See you later, guys.
We were talking about segmenting the future of podcast, the future of the show. Like, so eventually the podcast having 5 to 7 days of podcast, or potentially having a separate channel for each one of us, and that we'd have topics.
Yeah, because right now we have 4 podcast episodes a week, but we would like to at some point be able to drop 7. So like every single day there's something new. And like Adam was saying, some of them would be segmented to be just one of us, and it would be something that wouldn't be fitness related.
Yeah, because I think we all recognize that there's probably a ton of people out there that love to listen to Sal and absolutely hate to hear me talk, and I'm sure most people love Justin but are annoyed by Sal and I. So we understand that there's certain people that gravitate towards one or the other and want to hear more of what that person has to. Like, for example, I think we talked about Sal. Well, Sal, first of all, what do you think yours personally before?
Well, so I have a lot of passions, and so what's funny is I actually considered doing a podcast. I wanted to do podcasts or something like that a long time ago, and it wasn't fitness. Of course, I've always been in fitness, but I also have a deep passion for current events, politics, economics, kind of that sphere. And I would want to do a podcast where I discuss those things, where I talk about world politics, U.S. politics, economics, societal, and cultural events, things that pop up, in the news, discussing them, what they mean, navigating through those things. I can be extremely opinionated and polarizing. If you've been listening to Mind Pump for longer than 2 minutes, you probably know this already. And those categories are areas where my opinions are just as strong as they are in fitness, and I have huge passions for them. I would love to do a podcast where I talk about that stuff. I would absolutely love to debate those things. I'd love to debate economics. I'd love to debate peace. I'd love to debate equality, freedom, just the things that are just moving culture in different directions, whether it's forwards or backwards. I'd love to talk about them and the philosophies behind them, and get objective and look at what works, what doesn't work. And I'm pretty sure I'd piss everybody off. I tend to disagree at some point with everybody. And it would just be fucking fun from my standpoint. I don't know if it'd be fun to listen to. I'm sure, like I said, at some point I'd irritate everybody, but that would be 100% what I would want to talk about on my separate podcast.
Yeah. So for everybody that, loves the information and like just the plethora of knowledge that, Sal and Adam and, everybody's bringing into the table, that can't stand the humor and the entertainment side of it. They just want to fast forward to the beginning. My podcast would not be for you. So, fuck you.
Yours would be the beginning of my.
Yeah. No, mine. Yeah, literally would be
way more dick jokes.
Way more like the beginning, but a little more format to it, where we sort of dive into science fiction film, and like we just have more fun skits, like more comedy based, purely entertainment kind of. We're not trying to teach you anything, but just kind of silly and lighthearted and that kind of a thing. So that would be something that I would love to just just have fun and dive into that as well as this. So yeah, you didn't say what yours was called, did you?
I don't know if I want to say the name because
you gotta catch a name.
He already has a name. I already have a name too, bro.
Yeah, I want to hear him. I don't even.
So I actually own the domain.
Well, then why are you worried?
Oh, wow.
You're good.
No, and because I don't know if I'll go with it.
Oh, you're right. We should probably wait. Yeah.
Why?
So I don't know.
Well,
I mean, I'm the only one that doesn't really have a name. I'll come up with
If
one.
you're
by the
like
time
married to it, you know what I mean?
yeah, no.
What do you? You're not going to give it up or what?
Well,
That's part of the question.
There was a name
It is part of the
there was a
question.
name that I enjoyed for. It was called Angry Liberty, and it was just because
I
I
like
was
that name.
I was pissed off, and I like
like
to
that.
talk about this stuff.
I like that.
That's fire, dude.
I'm definitely. I mean, I don't make any secrets that I'm very very strong believer in individual liberty, and the peace and prosperity that economics has brought to the world. As much as there's a lot of problems with it, it's really done an incredible thing for mankind. Like, I hate it when people say shit like, money is evil, because money is just a tool. Like, money itself is nothing. I could put a pile of money on the table and it'll never kill anybody or hurt anybody. It's people that can be good or evil. Money is just a brilliant way of transferring value of goods or whatever. Like if you have chickens and I have logs, and you want logs and I want chickens, well, there's no problem there. We could trade. But what if I want to buy tires, but I have logs and you have chickens? How do I get value from you so I can get those logs, that product over there? Well, money represents all that. So that's just a little rant there, but those are the kind of subjects I like to tackle.
I like that name though.
Are you going to give your name, Justin, or what?
Yeah. Well, we were thinking around like no onions, just because it's like so random. And my friend and I kind of came up with that a long time ago.
No onions?
And I think it'd be appropriate because people would be like, huh? What does that even mean? And that's the point, You don't even know what it means. The whole fucking show, you don't know what it means.
Is
but
that
you
like
love it?
Is that like a play on words? Like because an onion, you have to peel back so many layers to get to it. It's like there's no fucking
all of that. I hate onions to begin with, so it worked out.
Peeling back, it's just in your face.
It smells,
Damn it,
all this format smells.
I swear to God, it's brilliant.
Smells bad.
It's brilliant.
No onions.
Oh shit. If I would do first, I just want to point out though that I would never do an individual podcast. Probably one of my greatest fears, believe it or not, as much as I fucking ramble and talk, is to have dead air or dead space. And one of the things I love about having these two gentlemen is when there is a time that I feel like I don't have anything to contribute, or I feel like I don't have something really intelligent to say about that, I feel that one or the other will, and that makes this no stress. There's no stress when we do Mind Pump. I absolutely enjoy every minute of it. It's very therapeutic. It doesn't take a lot of work for me. It's very natural. I think if I had to do my own show, it would take a lot more work. There would be a lot more stress involved. There'd be a lot more pressure to give just constant information all by myself. So I just want to put that out there. That would probably never happen. If I were to segment it though, or do something that I think just I would talk about by myself, it would either be somewhere in the world of bodybuilding or business, or maybe both. Maybe it would be the business of bodybuilding or bodybuilding business, and maybe that would be the name. I don't know. But I think that I would enjoy
double B's.
Yeah, maybe it would be double B's. Yeah, I think I could get into talking about that for quite some time. I would love to share a lot of mics.
You can have a co-host. I know,
exactly.
I don't think you do it by yourself.
Exactly.
That'd be weird.
Well, I think I would have. Well, why? It wouldn't be that weird. Most people do that. A lot of Joe Rogans.
I don't know how people do.
Yeah, but they always have
Crowders.
guests on.
Yeah.
I don't think they ever really do a lot of episodes.
Oh yeah, well no, I think that of course we would have guests, but even then, there's a difference between me interviewing a guest by myself versus having 2 or 3 co-hosts.
Oh, really?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's
I agree.
I mean,
I do that.
So
too.
no brainer that I would be interviewing somebody or have some sort of a co-host. I
was thinking you just be by yourself.
Hey
everybody.
Hi.
Day 36.
This is me again. I don't know if I could fill that much air up, but I do think that there's a lot that I have to share in regards to business, kind of a lot of the pitfalls that I went through, a ton of books that I've read that I've enjoyed, a lot of people that I've learned from, all the different weird businesses that I've had, and the ones that have been successful, the ones that have failed. I think I could talk for a really long time about that stuff. And I just became recently extremely fascinated with the bodybuilding world. And if you were to ask me that 5-6 years ago, I've always been somebody into business, but 5-6 years ago, I would have no desire to talk about bodybuilding. But going through what I've gone through now and seeing that side, and I found a connection to it. I enjoyed the shit out of it. And then I also saw so much wrong with it. I could talk for hours about all the different issues that I have with it and the things that I think need to change and be better. So
because it's a little bit related to Mind Pump, I think it would be probably easy to get guests and stuff, you know what I mean, to be able to do that.
Yeah, well, even business. I feel like we've had some really good entrepreneur minds on here, and I think I could go that way.
And then we could be guests.
I'd love to have you guys on my show.
Oh yeah,
yeah, that would be fun.
We'd be guest hosts on each other's show.
But I do want to say
I'd put you in wigs and all that shit.
Both of you have obviously thought about this more than I have, and both of you have better names than I do. I'm gonna have to come up with.
We'll circle back to you.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to come up with a more. The fact that this guy's already got his trademarked, and then Justin's been talking about it for fucking years.
He's got the domain.
Yeah, he's got the domain already.
Wow.
So they have put.
Sal's been planning his escape.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Obviously, they've been thinking about
Yoko Ono.
I better start thinking about it in case we break up because I thought we were gonna be together together as a band forever, but I better watch out for fucking Diana Ross over here because
Adam's the optimist.
I don't know what she's going to go off and do.
Diana Ross.
Do you have a co-host in mind already, Justin?
Yeah, it would probably be my friend from high school. Yeah, just because he always talks to me about like, I mean, this is the guy that we've been like trying to write an actual science fiction novel with forever, and that would be half of the premise of the show would be like us in our stupid conversations that like everybody, like my wife just rolls her eyes, you know, and we start talking about it because we're so passionate about it. You know, it's
funny when you do that too. You think like, oh my god, if only people could hear us, we're so awesome. And then people listen.
People there's not going to be as many people into that show. I guarantee it.
I don't know, man. You're pretty fucking hilarious. That vlog that we recorded at Paleo FX, man, your bits were, and it's all natural. That's just Justin. I have there's two people I would consider as co-hosts. I don't want to say their names.
Jesus Christ, you guys have thought a lot about this.
Well, no,
you fuckers.
I'm
getting uncomfortable.
I'm going to come into work one day, and these guys will be like, "Oh, by the way."
No, you know both of them. I don't want to.
Doug and I are going to start one. Fuck you guys.
Yeah, that sounds good.
The Doug and Adam hour, where Adam yells at Doug the whole time.
Well, you know what? The only one that's going to come out is Adam's because he's got the producers. So.
Oh shit.
He's smart.
See, I'm smarter with my co-host.
No, this one girl, a friend of mine, that man, if we got on a political, podcast, guarantee you she would piss. She's like, oh my god, you want to talk about polarizing? She is fucking fire. Piss, and her voice is so soft and sweet, and then she says some shit, and you're just like, we're gonna get hate mail forever.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it'd be really fun. Check it out. 30 days of coaching available for free at mindpumpmedia.com. It's for anybody. It's chock full of information. It's something we designed as a gift to our listeners. All you got to do is go to mindpumpmedia.com. You opt in, and then you're going to get tons of great information on different topics and subjects related to health, fitness, performance, and wellness. Also, if you want to ask us a question that we answer on air, like the ones you just heard, all you got to do is go to Instagram and ask the questions on our Instagram page, Mind Pump Media. We also have our own personal Instagram pages. Each one of them has a different flavor, and you'll learn something different from each one. My page is Mind Pump Sal, Adam is Mind Pump Adam, and Justin is Mind Pump Justin.
Thank you for listening to Mind Pump. If your goal is to build and shape your body, dramatically improve your health and energy, and maximize your overall performance, check out our discounted RGB Super Bundle at mindpumpmedia.com. The RGB Super Bundle includes MAPS Anabolic, MAPS Performance, and MAPS Aesthetic. 9 months of phased expert exercise programming designed by Sal, Adam, and Justin to systematically transform the way your body looks, feels, and performs. With detailed workout blueprints and over 200 videos, the RGB Super Bundle is like having Sal, Adam, and Justin as your own personal trainers, but at a fraction of the price. The RGB Super Bundle has a full 30-day money-back guarantee, and you can get it now plus other valuable free resources at mindpumpmedia.com. If you enjoy this show, please share the love by leaving us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes and by introducing Mind Pump to your friends and family. We thank you for your support, and until next time, this is Mind Pump.